6:47 now. Later today, the Supreme Court is set to hear a major case about transgender care. It revolves around a Tennessee law banning several medical care options for transgender kids. I want to bring in our Joe St. George now live for us this morning. Joe, good morning to you. Walk us through why this case could have some pretty big consequences across the country.
You know, Aaron, when you look at all of the cases that the United States Supreme Court is taking up this year, really hard to find a more consequential case than this. That's why many legal scholars are calling it the marquee case of the term. Specifically, it's out of Tennessee, but this could have ramifications for north of 20 states around the country that have passed restrictions on young people seeking gender-affirming care. Remember, Tennessee several years ago was one of the first states to pass a law that restricted access to things like puberty blockers, gender-affirming care for young people under the age of 18. That has been challenged in the courts on constitutional grounds. So this case has a little bit of everything. You have constitutional questions. You also have child welfare questions from the right. You have people looking internationally in the globe. Europe in recent years has pulled back some of their access to gender-affirming care for people under the age of 18 in response to just not knowing if there's enough medical research out that this should be happening. So does the Supreme Court look at the age here at all? Again, another big question. The fact that this is about people under the age of 18. Are they getting different rights, essentially, than those over the age of 18? Our viewers know by now, this is just an oral argument today. The biggest case of the term usually means it's months and months and months, some cases June, before we actually get an opinion. But this could have reverberations across the entire country for what transgender rights can be. There will be history made today as the first openly transgender man will argue before the High Court, the conservative-leaning Supreme Court. The Wall Street Journal with that little nugget this morning. The first openly transgender man that we know of that has addressed the United States Supreme Court. So another big day. How many times over the years, Aaron, have we talked about a historic day at the U.S. Supreme Court? Today's another one.
I know, it seems like we can't wrap our hands around it every time there's something new that's being pushed further. So before I let you go, transgender care, has been in the headlines a lot over the past few years. You alluded to it, of course, including in Virginia and North Carolina. So what are you hearing in terms of how the country as a whole is responding to the latest ban in Tennessee?
They're divided on this one, and if you've been anywhere near a television, especially our friends on the North Carolina side of the line, a swing state this election, so many commercials in politics were driven by transgender issues this election. This case is happening at a time in which this has never been a more hot-button issue than it is right now. And remember, a lot of these restrictions are relatively new. It isn't like Tennessee passed this restriction on what young people can access in their state decades ago. This was passed just a few years ago. So in many ways, this is a novel issue before the U.S. Supreme Court, and it's a divided issue in the country. 51%, according to Pew Research earlier this year, said that changing one's gender is morally wrong. That's a slim majority. But on the other side, more than 60% said restrictions on young people seeking treatment should not happen. So a bit of a mixed bag. It's a divided country in so many ways, including this issue.
Joe St. George live for us this morning, going beyond the headlines. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. It's 6:50.
Yeah. See you.